And good afternoon, everybody. Vasu Vaddiparty. This is a conversation with Vasu Vaddiparty right here on Wednesday afternoon, September 8th, 2021. Our guest Marty Lurie will join us in a second. Pregame show host every weekend for the San Francisco Giants. Broadcast on KNBR 680 1045 FM. You can also tune in on the streaming apps as well too. I think TuneIn is probably the best place to go to. All right, a conversation with Vasu Vaddiparty. Brought to you by Britannia Arms of Cupertino. Britannia Arms of Cupertino, celebrating 40 years in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley's longest-running British restaurant and pub since 1981. You can reach them at BritanniaArmsDeanza.com, 408-252-7262 with the NFL and NCAA football all starting. No better place to go on Saturdays and Sundays to get your football fix. Also during the week with happy hour specials as well as regular day-to-day business. And the regular customers there are great. Mike Ellenberg and Tommy Cage are great. Britannia Arms of Cupertino, 40 years in Cupertino. You can reach them at 408-252-7262. All right, as promised, we'll bring him in right now. Marty Lurie, San Francisco Giants pre- and post-game show every weekend. 4-hour pregame show with Bill Lasky and Kerry Crowley as we welcome him in to the broadcast for the second time, a conversation with Vasu Vaddiparty. Marty Lurie, how are you for the second time? Thank you again for coming on.
No, I'm happy to do it and feeling good, and we're in the sprint to the finish now, so it's a good time of year, let's face it.
No doubt about it. Well, good thing you came on a minute late. I got all the commercials taken care of, so we're all good to go now. Nothing but talk right now. San Francisco Giants, we had you on Cinco de Mayo. Still kind of a surprise on May 5th to what they were doing, but now we're at September 8th, Mr. Lurie, and they are continuing their run. 89-50, I believe, is the record. One game better than the Giants. They've got a day game in about an hour, which is why we're on now before the game starts. But your impressions the last 3 months since we talked to the San Francisco Giants and how they're doing it.
Well, let's face it, they have a shot to be 40 games over 500. And I don't think you're going to find the team in the last 30 years of the Giants that ever got that far over 500. So that speaks for itself. But how have they done it? They've done it the way we talked about it in May. They've got incredible starting pitching. They've had some injuries, but the starting pitching got them through the summer to this point. Now they're in a problem with a couple of openers, and maybe Kazmir will be up, and we've got to deal with that. But hitting-wise, they lead the major leagues in home runs. They still have a tremendous ratio on the chase rate. They have the best walk-to-strikeout ratio for the pitchers. They have the best ground ball rate. They have the best ground balls turned into outs rate. They've got the launch angle down. They hammer mediocre pitching, and they've held their own against everybody. The two guys from Milwaukee gave them some trouble, and if things go well, who knows? It could be Milwaukee and the Giants for the pennant. We're a long way from that, but the two guys from Milwaukee gave them some trouble. Atlanta gave them a little bit of trouble down there. They have played well against the Dodgers, and I think they have the Dodgers number mentally to some degree. So I think we're heading for what should be an outstanding October. They will be in the playoffs. It's just a question of, do they win the division, which I think they will. I think they're going to win going away by 3 or 4 games. And I think they're going to win 103, 104 games. And then what happens after that, we'll see.
Well, I do like the Giants, but I will defend my Dodgers in a little bit here later on in the National League segment. Kevin Gausman, Logan Webb leading the way in the pitching staff. Gausman a little rougher second half than he did the first half. Personal issues and things like that. I don't know if he's really gotten back in groove. It looked like he did Monday night in Colorado. A tough pitch to play. Over the years with the San Francisco Giants, and I remember Brian Sabian saying this, he would never make that trip to Colorado. It would drive him crazy to go to Colorado and watch bumper pool baseball, as Dwayne Kuiper used to say. But 7 innings out of Gausman and 7+ innings last night out of Logan Webb after they used their entire bullpen over the Dodgers series this weekend. How big of an asset is that, not only going into today, but getting ready with the day off tomorrow and this weekend in Chicago, who is playing very well, by the way, lately. The Cubs have played very well. And then the Padres and Braves on the next homestand starting Monday night, Marty.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. And believe me, Gausman and Webb have been terrific. Now, Gausman is not the guy the first half of the season. He still doesn't have command of the splitter, but he's an outstanding pitcher. and he's still got one of those numbers of runners in scoring position. The opposition is 10 for 190. I mean, it's something ridiculous. And Webb is right there with him in those big pitches when they have to get out of trouble. Webb has been great. He's the ground ball king. And he puts the ball on the ground, and the Giants have a good defense behind them, and they turn that into outs. So Webb really has been the story over the last few months. I think 13 of 14 games. He had that streak of giving up 2 earned runs or less until the game on Tuesday night when he gave up 3 in 7 innings. Big deal.
Yeah.
This has been the easiest series that I can remember the Giants having in Colorado. Colorado's pitching is just depleted. They got hammered right and left by the Giants. The Giants, I think, after going through this gauntlet of that 16 games in a row, and we got the last one today, they're feeling, I think, exhilarated getting to Colorado and seeing someone other than Buehler, who they knocked around, or Urias, who curveballed them to death, or the Dodger opener, which they had trouble with, for 9 innings. So they're good. They're good to go in Colorado. They really are. They got them at the right time. All right, now 10 games with San Diego. I don't know what to say. I mean, San Diego's fighting for a position here to get in the playoffs. They don't hit. They just don't hit with that lineup, but they play the Giants tough, and they have played them tough. They got a good bullpen, and Snell, 13 2/3 no-hit innings before he gave up a hit last night, pitching the best he's pitched for San Diego for sure.
Yeah.
And this looks like his Cy Young year. So you got Snell. You've got Musgrove, who's pitched just about like a Webb or a Gausman each time out. And today we get Darvish. And let's see what Darvish can do. He's got this sore back, and he has not been very effective at all. But a lot to go with San Diego. And San Diego's, as I say, fighting. They've given the Giants all they can handle. But, boy, I can't remember 10 games in September with one team. And who knows? Can the Giants beat them 8 out of 10? This is going to be an interesting development to see.
Can I just prop myself up here for a little bit in May when I said
not yet.
And nobody believed me that I said the Padres weren't going to be very good.
All right, Atlanta. All right, now Atlanta comes in. Atlanta's been sort of in trouble going west of the Mississippi. They've had some trouble on the road here, going through obviously LA and Colorado and Arizona, maybe in Arizona too. But that's going to be a fun series with Atlanta. You got Charlie Morton, you got Max Fried, and people like that. That's a good one for the Giants. We'll have to see what happens there. So, point being, Vasu, a lot of baseball ahead, interesting baseball, and the Giants really have the work cut out for them. But I think they're sprinting into the finish now. I think they can feel it.
I think the 3 things that I really enjoyed about watching this Giants, obviously, the pitching staff has been really good. The hitting, I don't think anybody thought this kind of power was going to be there. But the fact that they've had all 26 contribute for this team, not really having one superstar. I mean, they got Chris Bryant in the middle of the year, but not having one superstar. The shuttle between Sacramento, their AAA team, back and forth with some of the players that they brought up, including Duggar last Friday, I guess he came up. But everybody's contributed to this team, and that's something that you need it, obviously, and good teams have it. But I can't remember a time when you just plug somebody in the lineup that just got there from day one and they're already contributing. And I think that's a credit to the Giants organization and staff for not only starting that attitude in spring training, but also coming through to where they are now. How about all 26? And not even just 26. I'm talking about the entire 40-man roster that they've had to use this year.
Well, they've probably used closer to 60 players,
right?
Back and forth. But this is like 10, 12, and 14. And I said it on the air, 10, 12, and 14 with 25 people, 25 stories. Everybody had a story. And I think you're in the same position now with this team. Estrada's been terrific. What a pickup. It's a good hitter. Giants could have 16 players with 5 homers or more. I don't think that's ever happened in baseball before. Duggar is a guy who is the right age, and he's a good hitter. And, boy, if you put him in Colorado, watch out what he could do there with the big outfield. He's a good outfielder. How about Wade? You know, you talk about 17 home runs and 250 at bats, whatever it may be. Everybody on the team has contributed. Everybody. Now, LaStella, maybe you'd say, okay, not yet, but he's playing and he's in that leadoff spot and he takes a lot of pitches and he can make something. Got the double to start the game on Tuesday night. So you're right. You are absolutely right. Everybody on this team is contributing. There isn't a dead spot in the lineup. You may say, well, Yastrzemski, but he's got 22 home runs.
Yeah.
You know, and he may end up with 26 or 27 and lead the team. And he plays a decent outfield and, he's a good kid. So it's a good story. And you said it exactly right. Everybody on this team has done something. And all the pickups, my God. You know, you bring up Castro, looks okay. Duvall looked better than okay. You got Leone that become the seventh inning guy. He is the guy. Watson has done great here. Rogers is untouchable. And then you get McGee. You just hope that they don't overuse him and he can throw the ball in the top of the strike zone, not down here, up here. McGee is the only one that worries me a little bit in the playoffs.
Well, I don't think you're the only one who's worried about Jake McGee based on the talk shows that I'm hearing and all the callers that are coming in on there. But as far as our guest, Marty Lurie, this is a conversation with Vasu Vaddiparty, pregame show host with Bill Lasky, Kerry Crowley every Saturday and Sunday, 4-hour pregame show. You can catch it right before the Giants games as well. I was talking to your colleague, Bill Lasky, speaking of which, the San Francisco Giants, they had that big series against the Dodgers where they won 3 out of 4. The only criticism I've had of the Giants, and it's only been one, is that they've lacked, I don't know, I don't want to say focus because they're major league players and every team has major league players. But after winning 3 out of 4 in LA, it just didn't seem to be as momentous coming into the Pittsburgh series that weekend. And it happens to every team, and the Dodgers had it happen to them too. They swept San Diego, and then they ended up losing 2 out of 3 to Colorado. That's the only criticism I have of the Giants this year, is that sometimes these lesser teams, and your colleague said they have to, at that time when we talked, there were still 42 games, and he said you can't take any days off other than your scheduled days off. Everybody has major league players. You got to respect them and you got to play them and you got to do what you did. And you can't look at the team in the standings based on their record and take them lightly. And I think that they've done that the last 3 weeks, and the Dodgers have too. They're both winning on the same days. They're both losing on the same days. Let me ask you this from the Giants and Dodgers perspective. The Dodgers, they seem like they have that confidence about them. They think that they're going to win the division, and they probably can. They could if they're only 1 game back. Anything can happen, as you said. Do you think that they will never say it out loud? Do you think the Giants and Dodgers are both saying, man, everything that we're doing record-wise these last 6 weeks, the other guys are not losing? That's got to be something in the back of their minds, and they'll never say it out loud, knowing these pro players.
Well, I think the main thing is that they're winning.
Right.
The focus is when you show up at the park that day, you want to win that day. And I don't think we're at scoreboard watching yet. Because, look, Giants could go up by 3. The Dodgers could go up by 3 with 17 to go, and anything can happen. So we're not at that point yet where you say, gee, these guys never lose. We can't gain any ground. The Dodgers put themselves back in the race, and it's a marathon. You know, you can't forget that. This is a marathon. This is not the weekend of the Pirates series, and let's define the team by that. It's not. It's not the Dodgers series. It's over 162, and they've played 138 already.
Right.
And there's 24 to go, 23 to go, whatever it is after today. So I think that as a professional athlete, you show up and you figure out what the plan is to win today. And you don't worry about what the Dodgers will do against the Cardinals with Wainwright going, against the opener, Mitch White. You've got DeSclafani today against John Gray, who's 2-7 against the Giants and never really pitched well against them. And he's got forearm tightness, and the Rockies bullpen is a mess, and Bud Black is staring in the Giant dugout. You know, but poor Bud Black, he's getting his how should I say it? His rear end kicked.
Yeah.
With Colorado. So what can I tell you? It's been interesting. It's been interesting to watch this team play. And there's a long way to go.
3.5 weeks to go. Our guest Marty Lurie.
The Cubs this weekend in Wrigley, and look, the Cubs are playing better.
They're playing great.
But it's all new names. Rizzo's gone. All the big boys are gone. In fact, Bryant is here. And let's see what they do pitching wise, who they've got, what their bullpen looks like. And they're all day games. They all start 11:20 local time. And for me, that means I start Saturday and Sunday with Bill and Kerry at 7 a.m.
7 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday for Marty Lurie. All right, a couple more things on the Giants. Let's transition. You talked about the Cubs this weekend. How valuable? I think it's been invaluable. I don't think it gets written about because his name is known in the Midwest. But how valuable has Kris Bryant been from the standpoint of complementing what they already had going into the trade deadline? 5 positions played, pretty good defense. I think he scares a few people at third base a little bit. But left, center, and right, third and first, the power's there, the average is there, the baseball acumen, which I look at, seems to be there with Kris Bryant in the years since the Cubs days to now. How much of a bigger compliment of a piece, as opposed to just one of 26, do you think he's made from a contribution standpoint to this team?
Yeah, well, he's 29 and he's a superstar. He's not 34, and you're hoping that he lasts to the end of the year. And he's not 23, hoping that he's going to have a big league career. He's got one, and he's a very smart player. Physically, he's got a little bit of a wrist thing. Maybe that has hurt his throws some third. But he's a swing and miss guy. But he's also a guy who can come through with everybody else. Now, if you just had Bryant alone, I wouldn't think that he could handle that. But you put Bryant in the middle of Belt, Posey, Bryant, Crawford, Longoria, and then how about throwing in Ruff and Wade just for the heck of it? I mean, and then throw in little Estrada or Solano or Flores. It's a good team. So he walked into a good team and he made them better because he's a pro and he's the right age and he knows how to play the game. I like him a lot. Whether you spend $200 million for him, that's up to Farhan to figure out. But having him here now, big help. Huge help.
Yeah, I'm sure it wouldn't hurt to have them re-sign him for 4 or 5 years. Seems to like the place and everything going good with them, and they're winning, and that's a big thing. And he's a former MVP and a former Rookie of the Year. All right, last thing. I want to talk about Logan Webb here because it's a fascinating story for me. He got hurt, and he was ineffective at the beginning of the year. Last year was kind of a wash year for him. What have you seen in your baseball history and baseball knowledge? What has he done different from early in the year to the point where he came back? Because I heard this morning – his last 15 starts, the team is 14-1 with him. It's win day with Logan Webb. I don't even remember the one loss that he had in that 15-game stretch. But how effective has he been, and what has he done different in your view, in your perspective, than he did early in the year, Marty?
Well, he's got command, and he doesn't get rattled. Earlier in the year, if he gave up a run or two or got behind or there's an error or whatever, you could just look at his face, and he looked like he was getting rattled, and things would happen. Now, guy doesn't get rattled. And I noticed this early on once he turned the corner. I said, give this guy a lead. And boy, he is tough. He shuts it down. And that's what I really like about him. You give him a 1 or 2 run lead, he doesn't cough it up. And he's got tremendous command of a sinker. And in today's game, if you could keep it away from the launch angle, which everyone is trying to do, well, then they're going to pound it into the ground, which is what he gets them to do. So the sinker command has been awesome. He's like hitting a bowling ball, the way he's throwing it up there. And also he's got good command of his slider now, where before the slider was all over the place, the changeup. He's got command of these pitches, and these are pitches that get hitters off balance. So the hard hit rate, the barrel rate for him is a low percentage. And he's got good command, and I think Posey's done a great job with him, and Casale too. But he is now a pitcher who knows what he's doing. And the sinker really has been the difference. That ground ball rate is just incredible.
Marty Lurie, our guest from KNBR, weekend pregame show host, 4 hours every Saturday and Sunday with Bill Lasky and Kerry Crowley. All right, we hit the Giants. We know what's going on with them. Dodgers are right there, 1 game back. Going to be interesting National League West. Let's hit a few minutes on the National League here and the National League wild card. Milwaukee, I mean, what a year they're having. I still don't think they hit the ball as well as they can, but that pitching staff with Woodruff and Burns and Peralta, unbelievable. Josh Hader seems like he's back. Devin Williams had 1 bad outing. I think that's the only bad outing I saw him have was last Thursday against the Brewers. Against the Giants, he gave up 4 runs on Thursday afternoon. Greg Counsell, not getting a lot talked about. Everybody's talking about Gabe Kapler. Maybe I'm here on the West Coast, and that's all I hear is Gabe Kapler talk. But how about Craig Counsell, the Milwaukee Brewers, and what they're doing? I mean, that's a runaway division. That race is over. 11 games in the Central, Marty.
Yeah, I love Counsell. I think he's a very good manager. He's got Pat Murphy as his bench coach, former Padres manager, former
Mhm.
college coach at Notre Dame. I like Murphy a lot. I've talked with him. He's a real baseball guy, and they work well together. Look, they got, you said it. Their pitching has been outstanding with the big three. We'll see what Peralta, if he's healthy, but the bullpen is solid. Adrian Hauser has been terrific for them. Eric Lauer has been terrific. Now, in a playoff, these are guys in the middle of the game. So if you need them, they're very strong pitchers. So their pitching staff is better than you think. And we think it is pretty good. But Woodruff and Burns have got to be on those days. And look, they're pitching a lot more innings than they've ever pitched before. And you're asking them to take you through October. So we'll see. Brewers are good. I agree with you. I don't think they hit as well as they can. And the main reason is Yelich. He just doesn't have the power anymore. It's incredible, but he makes contact and he'll get base hits here and there. But boy, he is not the same player, and he's still in a spot where they need him to produce. But Willie Adames has been terrific. Rowdy Tellez has been very good. This is a team that has done well, and they're going to cruise in and set their pitching up. And I think the Dodgers get Milwaukee at the end of the year. And it should be interesting to see what the Brewers do pitching-wise against the Dodgers. If the Dodgers need those wins, they may go Woodruff, Burns, and Peralta for 2 innings each or 3 innings each to set up, the playoff rotation. So that's something to watch too.
You said it, 3.5 weeks left to go in baseball. They're only 5 games back in the loss column for the best record in the National League, and anything can happen. How do you think the Brewers play it these last 2 weeks, these last 3 weeks or so? You think that's important to them, or you think they just get it all set up for the playoffs and be happy with the number 2 seed, Marty?
Yeah, get set up for the playoffs. Your pitching and health, most important. Adames has been hurt a little bit lately. Escobar's coming back from an injury. You need them to be healthy. You need your pitchers to be strong. It would be fool's gold to run down the stretch trying to make up 5 games on the Giants and Dodgers. There's no point in doing it. I don't care where you play, the Giants or Dodgers or Atlanta. You're going to get a home series against Atlanta. If Atlanta holds on, it may be the Phillies, who knows, or the Mets. But no matter where Milwaukee plays the next round, if they're lucky enough to win, it doesn't matter. Because if they've got their pitching set up, those guys can pitch anywhere.
Well, yeah, exactly. They're really good, and they're a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs, especially in the first 5-game series. All right, let's hit the East a little bit. Atlanta 3 up. What a division, topsy-turvy division. No DeGrom for New York yet, although they say he's coming back, and that turns that team around. They're not hitting as well. Baez, and Lindor had their issues already with the fans. Thumbs down, thumbs up. Good emoji thing. And then Philadelphia, you don't know if he can hit, or on days they just don't hit, and then on other days they do hit. And I'm not sure their bullpen's good enough. What do you see for the East these last 3 weeks? Because it's still a race.
Yeah, I think Atlanta is the best team, and I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, you look at Philadelphia, you look at Cincinnati, you look at San Diego, you look at the Mets, and even Atlanta to some degree. These teams are all 515, 520, 505, 530 winning percentage. So they win and they lose. That's the point. And let's see if anybody can play 700 ball, for 3 weeks. Who knows? I don't think it matters. I think whoever gets that wild card spot is probably one and done. Probably. But look, we've seen the one game before, Crawford hits a slam, Gillespie hits a home run. Your starter goes 7 and all of a sudden you're in the bullpen in a wild card game, with a 0-0 score or something like that. So I think Atlanta hangs on, and I think you hit it accurately. When you look at Philly, Cincinnati, the Mets, they're start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. And that's probably the way it's going to go the rest of the year.
All right, let's hit the wild card real quick. San Diego, obviously not going to be in the division factor anymore. 1 up on Cincinnati in the loss column. These are all loss columns, by the way. I don't use the games behind standing. Baseball people know to use only the loss column, Marty. We know that. 1 up on Cincinnati, 2 up on Philly, 3 up on St. Louis, and 4 up on the Mets. It's going to be an interesting 3 weeks for this. This is its own division in its own right. And we just talked about Philly, St. Louis, their bullpen. To me, at one point, they were leading the league in bases loaded walks. in the middle of the year. The Cardinals were, and their bullpen's not very good. And the Mets, we just talked about them as well too. And you were high on the Reds about 6 weeks ago, and here they are. They lose 2 out of 3 to the Tigers, and then games that they shouldn't have lost to the Pirates and things like that. And I don't know if that's just the fact that they didn't hit that day or their pitching didn't come through, but I know you were high on the Reds a few weeks ago. I was high on the Reds a few weeks ago, and yet here we are with 5 teams still in the wild card race for that number 2 spot.
Well, San Diego's got a tough way to go. They got to go through the Dodgers and the Giants, and I don't know how they're going to get through that gauntlet. I really don't. I think the Reds have the best shot. I just think with Sonny Gray and Miley and Malley, Gutierrez, Lorenzen, and Givens in the bullpen. I hate to even say those names, but that's what's going on in their bullpen. But they should have a good enough offense to win games. But look, they had trouble. They had trouble with Detroit. They're having trouble with the Cubs. They have had trouble winning series, no matter who they're playing against. I think the Pirates gave them trouble. So I'm going to stick with the Reds simply because I think San Diego has just got such an uphill climb. I'd love to say San Diego. I really would, because I'd love to see Blake Snell against the Giants or Dodgers the way he's pitching now. But I just think the Reds are going to hang on to this thing.
We'll see how it goes. 3.5 weeks. Marty Lurie, our guest, KMBR 680, 104.5 FM locally in the Bay Area, and all streaming outlets for our pregame show with Bill Lasky and Kerry Crowley. Thanks to everybody on Facebook and YouTube as well, too. Let's hit the American League real quick just for a minute here. How about those Tampa Bay Rays? Nobody knows who they are. They've got 5,000 people in the stands, St. Petersburg, Florida. They were in the World Series last year for people that don't remember, and here they are. They're only 1 game back of the Giants in terms of overall best record, and they're pretty much going to win the East. They're up 9 on the Yankees and 10 on the Red Sox, and then the White Sox in the Central. They're in Oakland right now. I think I'm going to go see them tomorrow afternoon, and then Houston comeback win last night against Seattle, surprising walk-off, and the A's are struggling. How about the American League in a general sense here, Mr. Lurie?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Tampa Bay leads the league in runs scored for the first time ever, and they're playing really good baseball. They're killing it in the East, and they have done well. And now, can I name their starting staff? No, I can't, because they're closer crazy, and I rather their opener crazy. But they do have the next guy as a bulk guy, so it's not 9 pitchers every night. And that's their difference. And that's what they did in the World Series last year and the playoffs. So they're solid. They know how to play today's game. And Nelson Cruz has been a big addition for them offensively, and also for the clubhouse and everything else. Nelson Cruz was a good pickup. I like Toronto. And I said this months ago on my show with Paul White, who we have on frequently, great national baseball writer. Toronto was the team I picked. And I still think Toronto is going to get in there. This is the time of year that if you got players who are hot, they can carry you, and they've got 3 or 4. Robbie Ray and Rayu have pitched really well. If Rayu is for real, that can help. I think Toronto is going to get in there. I hate to think the Yankees aren't, but Garrett Cole may have a hamstring, and the Yankees won 13 in a row. Then they lost 7 out of 9, something like that. It's a good race. Boston has COVID issues, and it seems like every game they play is 11-10. And I don't know how you can go through the stretch like that. Oakland has hit the wall with their pen and everything else. Seattle just doesn't have the firepower. So I think Toronto's going to be in there. If I had to say today, it's Toronto and the Yankees. I think. And I say Yankees because I followed the Yankees my whole life. What can I tell you? And they always seem to be there. If they have a chance, they always seem to get in.
Once a New Yorker, always a New Yorker. New York, 2 up on Boston for the 1 spot. Boston tied with Toronto in the loss column. 2 up on Seattle, Oakland, Cleveland. 6 back. That's probably too many. That's probably too many to come back
Cleveland.
from. But I included
Cleveland?
them. Yeah, I did say Cleveland. I put them on the graphic, Marty. They're 6 back.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either, but they're playing better. So the American League, pretty good. The Nelson Cruz trade for Tampa Bay reminds me of what the Giants did with Chris Bryant, getting a superstar in the middle of the lineup to complement their team. All right, we hit all the baseball with Marty Lurie. I just want to get your thought as a historian. Today, as we talk, the ceremonies are going on canceled from 2020. Derek Jeter, Larry Walker, Ted Simmons, and Marvin Miller all going into the Hall of Fame. If you want to just give me a minute on each of the players and you being a former attorney and how important Marvin Miller was to the game of baseball from the 1970s until what the players' success are having today based on the union.
Well, we'll start with Marvin Miller. He's not a lawyer. He's a great negotiator. And Brooks Robinson, who I love, said it best yesterday. There's been Babe Ruth, Jackie Robinson, and Marvin Miller. They've made the biggest impact on the game. And, of course, Ruth changed the game from small ball, dead ball era to the live ball. Jackie changed the face of baseball with integration of baseball. And Marvin Miller gave the players power. So that speaks for itself. It's wonderful. Larry Walker, a great base runner. He was a superstar. He played in small markets, so we really didn't get to see him a lot. He got hurt more than he should have, but a great player, great arm, and I'm glad to see him get in. Larry Walker. Ted Simmons, you look at offensive catchers, 2,700 hits, something like that. A switch hitter. He also worked in the front office, and his playing days are over, but a very strong player for the Cardinals and the Brewers. Very strong. And you look at maybe he wasn't a great home run hitter or have the cachet of Carter and Fisk and Pudge Rodriguez, but he's up there with the great catchers of the game. There's no question about it. And Derek Jeter, he's lucky to get in.
Yeah, I agree, Marty, with you. 5 world championships, 5 gold gloves. I mean, what has he done? The captain? Yeah, I agree.
They did him a favor putting him in.
I appreciate that. All right, Jeter. I like Jeter, obviously. Larry Walker, I don't think he gets enough credit for his offensive numbers because they criticize him for Colorado. Ted Simmons was a very smart guy playing baseball. When I started watching in the 70s, that was right during his prime, and he could hit, but he could handle a pitching staff, and he was handling these Davey Johnson-like cue cards to keep track of pitchers and how to work with them. His last year in Atlanta, coincidentally, and I don't think it was brought up anywhere, so I'll bring it up first and take credit for it, was 1988 in Atlanta. By the way, 2 young pitchers named Smoltz and Glavine were on that staff. So you don't think he had an influence on them, at least for the 2 years that he may have been there with Smoltz and Glavine. And, of course, Marvin Miller, without him, the union wouldn't be where they are today. Great job by the Players Union to recognize him and the Hall of Fame to recognize him. One last thing before I let you go, Marty, is I want to talk. You know both of them very well, Ray Fosse and Dwayne Kuiper out here in the Bay Area, former teammates with the Cleveland Indians, both suffering through some cancer stages. Ray taking the rest of the year off. Of course, Kuiper has been a legend here for 30 years as a broadcaster. We all know him from that standpoint. Your thoughts? You're in that demographic and you know them well, and I just want to get your thoughts because we haven't talked that much about them since they've been off the air.
Yeah, well, they're part of the family, and that's what the broadcasters become. So if their playing careers were interesting, but years ago, people don't remember their playing careers at all, really. But they're part of the family, and they come in our homes every day, every evening for 6-7 months at a time. And we rely on their voice, their expertise, their humor, and it's having part of the family sick. And you just hope the best for them, which I hope that things will be okay for Dwayne and Ray, and we get them back on the air next year. But the best way to explain it is it's a family member that's going through something. It's not a baseball broadcaster or a baseball player or someone who's just on Comcast. These folks sit down with us to dinner. Sometimes they're in the room when we go to sleep at night with their voices on. And it's just, I can't say enough about them. And I just wish them the speediest health and recovery that man has ever seen.
Well, we all do, no doubt about that. Speaking of family members, I feel like Marty Lurie is part of my weekend family. I get a chance to listen to him every once in a while, wherever I'm traveling, streaming, or whatever the case is. Weekend host, KMBR 680, 104.5, 4-hour pregame shows every Saturday and Sunday with Bill Lasky and Kerry Crowley. He does great with them. It's a good listen. History of baseball along with the current aspects of the game as well. Mr. Lurie, Marty Lurie, I always appreciate the time. Thank you very much, as always. Let's do it again. Maybe during the playoffs we'll catch up and you can tell me where I'm wrong again because you're good at that. I always appreciate that.
Well, I listen to what you say, so I enjoy being on with you. You ask good questions. You're a great fan, and you have great passion, and that's what baseball is all about. So I appreciate being on.
All right, Marty. Thank you very much for the time. Hang on for a second. Let me say goodbye here to everybody. A conversation with Vasu Vaddiparty. Don't forget to check out Make the Money and Run tomorrow and Friday with Charlie O, sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino. Check them out at BritanniaArmsDeanza.com. Appreciate it. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Enjoy the last 3 weeks. We'll talk to you later.